right, guys, so I thought we'd take a look at the internet weather for this week. No major big changes from what we've been looking at over the past month or two, except one that I kind of highlighted has kind of crept up here into the top 10, which is that port 53413 UDP, which is related to this Netis router vulnerability. It's a very old vulnerability that still every once in a while we get these attackers scanning for those devices still. But most of these are remote desktop type things, like you've got Telnet or remote access type things. Telnet SSH at the top. We know there's a lot of IoT stuff there. 8545 is that Ethereum wallet that had a vulnerability. So there's still people trying to hack into those to steal some Ethereum cryptocurrency. But a lot of the other stuff is a lot of stuff we talk about on a regular basis. We're going to take a look at that one port in more detail in a second here. The most sources probing activity is usually more interesting to me because it usually reflects some sort of botnet related activity, because you're getting a lot of devices all at once trying to scan a particular port and protocol. Really interesting, port 2000 TCP has, over the past couple of weeks here, gone to the #1 position, which has traditionally been held by Telnet 23 TCP, probably for the past 2-3 years. Telnet has held that position for the most part. So very interesting that port 2000 has made it to the top. We're going to talk about why that is. And port 5555 TCP is also one you don't hear about much. But it's at the #5 position. We're going to talk about that one as well. So let's take a closer look at 53413 UDP. We can see towards the right side here, it's not like a super gigantic volume change here, but you can see there's more density in how much activity we've had versus the past 60 days or so. This is a 90-day view. When I looked, it is a very small number of sources contributing to this activity, less than 10. They're all in this one web hosting provider in the Netherlands. So it's probably a small limited number of actors that are still looking for vulnerable devices of this type. So moving along, port 2000 TCP. So there is a vulnerability that was discovered or kind of reported in the press back on March 16th. And shortly thereafter, we started to see increased scanning activity on 2 of these Mikrotik ports. So 8291 TCP is this stuff in red, and we saw them exclusively scanning with that. And then port 2000 is more well known as this bandwidth test port that you can use, and only the Mikrotik routers really have it, and it's really easy. If you poke it, you can tell that this is definitely a Mikrotik router. So I think what they're, and you can see they kind of transitioned here. So they were trying this 8291, when I say they, the bad guys, and they kind of shifted at some point here to move over mostly to the port 2000. We don't really see much of this 8291 TCP scanning anymore. I think what they're doing here is they're using this as a means to identify what devices out there are Mikrotik ones so that they can exploit them. So this is a good technique for finding just the types of devices you're interested in and then going on to exploit it further.
So it's obviously a theme here where both of these, or the previous one too, is a router.
Yep.
And finding vulnerabilities, and you can hide those, and you wouldn't necessarily see that.
Right. It's very difficult for people to know that they've been compromised because it's at the edge of their network usually. That's an important one. There's actually Security Week put a report out on this that kind of describes this vulnerability. There is a patch for it, I believe. There's definitely an advisory they put out. But the problem, again, with a lot of these devices, a lot of people, once they deploy them, they don't think to go update it, because it's just this device. Sure. It's doing what you think it's supposed to be doing, routing your traffic to the internet, and it really is not something you interact with much other than letting it route your traffic for you to the internet. So definitely something people who have Mikrotik devices should go look into.
And similar to Netis, the same types of things are being done, so they're probably using it to do botnet activities or mine currency or something like that.
I don't know if they mentioned what they're doing with them right now, but I'm going to guess it's probably the similar types of activities that we've seen before. And then the last one I have here, we've talked about this in the past few weeks or months as well. Back in February, an article came out, and it's about this port 555 TCP, which is the Android debugger port. And there's some small number of devices. When I say small, it's around 6,000 to 7,000 or so. It kind of went down and has since gone up in the past few weeks here to the 7,500 or so scan sources per hour, which means there's definitely a decent number of them out there. So
instead of a user probably going into settings and saying, I want to turn on debugging, it's more likely that they have some type of app or some function or something on a browser that just said, hey, this crashed. Do you want to turn on debugging? And they said yes.
There's a couple scenarios. There could be somebody who shipped something on a small number of Android devices and left that turned on, that feature. Okay. Or I'm a developer and I'm writing an app or something of that nature on an Android-based device, and I want to do some debugging of that app while it runs in the operating system. There's actually an article about it that came out in early February about a botnet that was, in a very short period of time, which is what we could see in our charts as well. 24 hours, about 5,000 devices were scooped up into this botnet, and they started mining cryptocurrency. So, a good thing to keep on top of. Again, sometimes this is a hard one to know necessarily that you've left this service turned on.
Well, once the mining process starts running, you'd think that if you're looking at resource consumption, something's going to show up.
Yeah, but are you? You know what I mean?
Not everybody looks.
Depends on what it is. If it's a phone, am I really checking? Or there is a lot of Android-based devices out there besides mobile devices. There's lots of little set-top boxes, those types of things, or even smart televisions have Android in them now. So it's being used quite a bit around the world. So anyway, good one to keep on top of, and hopefully we don't see more devices getting scooped up into that in the future.